Hello everyone and welcome to another movie review. I'm so happy that you can join me today. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Click the subscribe button below, click like and share. So today we're going to be talking about The Woman King, which was released in theaters yesterday, starring Viola Davis and John Boyega. So what I've decided to do today is I'm going to give you an objective movie review and a subjective movie review. And the reason why I'm doing that is because for two reasons. Number one, this movie is getting a backlash. It's becoming a polarizing film where the critics love it and there's a backlash to it, but the backlash is actually for a valid reason. So I was not expecting this film to be as polarizing as it is, and we need to talk about that. And the second reason is, as a person who founded their own entertainment company, something that I wasn't planning to do originally, and it kind of reminded me of my own journey as a person who is passionate about filmmaking, who's passionate about the arts in general. So yeah, this movie hit a nerve for me. I'm going to start with the Wikipedia description of the movie. So it says, according to Wikipedia, The Woman King is about the Agoji, an all-female warrior unit who protected the West African kingdom of Dahomey during the 17th to 19th centuries. Set in the 1820s, the film stars Viola Davis as General Naniska, who trains the next generation of warriors to fight their enemies. The director of the film, Gina Prince Bithwood, wrote the script with actress Maria Bello. Bello conceived the idea for the film in 2015 after visiting Benin, where Dahomey used to be located, and learning the history of the Agoji. Convinced she had found a story worth telling, she recruited Kathy Schulman to develop it into a feature film. They pitched it to several studios, who turned it down due to financial concerns. After they met with TriStar Pictures in 2017, the film was greenlit in 2020. From what I learned, a couple of years ago, Viola Davis did an interview with her husband for one of the major shows on TV, and she mentioned that she has always wanted to do a Black female version of Braveheart, and so that was her passion. And so here comes The Woman King. So this is a film that Viola Davis have been wanting to do now for quite some time. There is an all-male military unit that the Dahomey has, but the focus is on the Agoji, which is the all-female military unit. So the backlash was created sometime last month when Nicole Hannah-Jones, who is the famous journalist that published the 1619 Project for the New York Times, she tweeted the following: "It will be interesting to see how a movie that seems to glorify the all-female military unit of the Dahomey deals with the fact that this kingdom derived its wealth from capturing Africans for the transatlantic slave trade." And it started getting traction over time because people were criticizing her and saying, why don't you just wait for the movie to come out and watch it for yourself? So it came out yesterday, and people already started putting in their opinions. So I'm not going to read everything that I've read. I'm just going to point out one person that posted this on social media, which I found to be quite compelling. And this is a very well thought out argument. So this particular person wrote, "I love Viola Davis, but she trivializes slavery in this film, and even worse, makes it so that Black people are actively encouraging white institutions to trivialize slavery. The heroes of this quote-quote true story were the most vile slave catchers of their time. Their kingdom was built on capturing Africans and selling them to the Europeans. Close to 20% of all Africans sold to the Middle Passage were captured by the Dahomey. Could you imagine a movie that painted itself as a true story and told the story of Nazi collaborators and wrote them as heroes who fought for the freedom of the Jewish people? And articles appeared in the Smithsonian that trivialized the Holocaust? I think there would be reasonable outrage, and the people who marketed such a film to American Jews would be made to see the painfully obvious error of their ways. For people who respect themselves and their history, their reactions would be clear. We are fighting to have the history of slavery told honestly in schools right now, and Black people are defending this film that makes heroes of the most vile enslavers in the region. We want little African American girls to look up to the people who captured, raped, killed, and sold their ancestors. When we support this movie, we are literally celebrating Black women who attacked and terrorized other Africans for European money. So it actually, what's actually interesting is the Wikipedia article for The Woman King addressed the history of the Dahomey people. They wrote in the article for this film, historically, Dahomey was a kingdom that conquered other African states and enslaved their citizens to sell in the Atlantic slave trade, and most of the kingdom's wealth was derived from slavery. The Agoge had a history of participating in slave raiding, and that slavery in Dahomey persisted after the British Empire stopped Dahomey from continuing in the transatlantic slave trade. In the film setting of the 1820s, Nanisca confronts King Gezo about the immorality of selling Dahomey slaves to the Portuguese and suggests trading in palm oil production instead. Nanisca being fictional, the confrontation did not take place. Smithsonian wrote, though Gezo did at one point explore palm oil production as an alternative source of revenue, it proved far less lucrative, and the king soon resumed Dahomey's participation in the slave trade. So it seems as though that Nanisca is a fictional character. However, King Gezo, played by John Boyega, was an actual person in the Dahomey history. So taking all of this into consideration, and I'm going to start with, there's a difference between a narrative film and a documentary. So I used to study Shakespeare years ago, and one of the things that came across that that I learned about Shakespeare is Shakespeare never let historical facts get in the way of telling a good story. So the question is, if you are watching a narrative film and you don't want the historical facts to get in the way of a good storytelling, how much historical accuracy is okay, and how much freedom you have to create a fictional story is allowed. So in my opinion, I think that the historical accuracy is there, and I do think that the liberty that they took to tell a fictional film inside this world actually works. So because Nanisca is the general, the Agoge, and the focus of the film is on the Agoge, I found that the film actually works. From an artistic standpoint, the film is actually very well made. The direction is very solid. The acting is very, very good. As a matter of fact, Viola Davis has this this level of self-control, self-restraint. There is a quiet type of leadership that I get from her character, and I really love it, because not a lot of leaders that are portrayed in films are the quiet, calm, subdued type of leader. Usually leaders are just loud and rambunctious and extroverted, and I find that General Naniska is the exact opposite, because you can be a quiet leader and also be effective. So as a leader of the Agoji, I find that, you just enjoy watching her on the screen. There is a charisma there, there is an intelligence there, and I just really reacted strongly to this character. So in my opinion, I think that Viola Davis has a strong chance of getting nominated for an Oscar for this film, because there's so much richness to this character. At one point, she talks about her dream that she's having and what the dream means. At one point, you find out that she was raped and got pregnant from that rape. There's a beautiful, rich, complex characterization going on here, which was well thought out. So for me, I just love Viola Davis in this film. The other actors, the supporting cast is also a very strong supporting cast. You have Hero Fiennes Tiffin, who plays one of the Portuguese slave traders. You have a couple of other actresses who are playing, members of the Agoji. You have John Boyega playing the king. The supporting cast is very strong. And so as a director, I think Bithwood did a fantastic job. And I think that this is probably Gina Prince Bithwood's best film to date. In terms of cinematography, I thought there were certain parts of the film that looked kind of dark. So the cinematography was not as good as I was hoping that it would be. But the costume design is very good. The set design is very good. They really brought that historical accuracy to the set design and the costume design. And also, what I want to point out is they also brought historical accuracy to how King Gezo interacts with his team of advisors, which is kind of like, there were a couple of scenes where he would get around with his advisors, which you would say is like equivalent to the UK Parliament. And being the fact that this is like the 1820s, what people would find surprising, and this is based on research that I have done, because I have done research on the Dahomey in the past, which I will get to in this subjective movie review. But there is this, there's a couple of scenes where King Gezo is talking to his advisors. General Naniska is part of that group of advisors, and there is an equal amount of female advisors and male advisors, and they all have their opinion, and they're all entitled to their opinion. And so what a lot of people don't realize is that certain African societies in the past, prior to European colonization, they had an egalitarian society. It wasn't a patriarchal society like you would find in Europe. It was more egalitarian, and so women and men were treated as equals. That is historically accurate. And so when you're watching the scenes in which King Gezo is talking to his advisors, and you have women and men having these, conversations and these disagreements, that's historically true. And that's really important to see on film. I'm going to give this film a solid 4 out of 5 stars. And that leads into my subjective movie review. Now, here's the thing. I started my own really little entertainment company in 2013. And I waited quite a long time, because that was not the plan. When I graduated from college 20 years ago, so you probably figure out how old I am, I wanted to be a filmmaker. that was the plan. And I wanted to find a job in the film industry somewhere and get my foot in the door and just work up the ranks. But that didn't happen. And I'm not going to get into the details because I want to keep this as short as possible. But when I realized I wasn't going to get anywhere in the entertainment industry, because when I first started, people wanted you to work for free. So I had to leave the entertainment industry because I could not afford to work for free anymore. So when I left, I went to grad school and then I started going into writing. So I started my professional writing career when I was 29, 30. And one of the first things that I wrote was a screenplay. The screenplay was actually a fictional story that took place in Africa. And one of the characters was actually the leader of the Dahomey all-female military unit. When I wrote the script, and I finished the script in 2010, at that time, there was no one in the film industry, not in Hollywood, not in Nollywood, okay, the Nigerian film industry, and also not in the American independent film circles. No one was making a film that took place in the past in sub-Saharan Africa. If you watch a lot of Nollywood films, they're kind of like soap opera-y, okay? And most of those films take place in the contemporary modern era. So this was a movie that, the movie that I wrote wasn't something that was done at that time. So when I saw The Woman King, it kind of reminded me of the fact that here you have this film that has never been done by Hollywood. The reason why I wrote my script in 2010 and it never got made was because I never had the money. And I never found avenues where I could get the money and at least start making the film. And in actuality, this is a live action film. The script that I wrote in 2010 was for an animated film, because at that time, I also never saw an animated film in which the main characters were all black and black royalty. The Woman King is a film that I have always wanted to do. And it's also a film that I have been waiting for a very long time to see on a big screen. The first piece of music that you hear when the closing credits appear is an instrumental. And as the credits was progressing, I found out that the music was composed by Terence Blanchard. And the reason why I know him is because he also composed an opera for the Metropolitan Opera House called Fire Shut Up in My Bones. And that got media attention because Terence Blanchard and the opera is it's the first opera in the Metropolitan's history that was composed by a black composer. So the Met has been around since the 1800s. So it took the Met over 100 years to stage an opera composed by a black man. So when his name popped up, that he also composed for The Woman King, I was really excited, and I was very happy for him. He has composed other films as well. Some of Spike Lee's films were composed by him as well. But I knew his name right away because of the opera Fire Shut Up in My Bones. So when you hear the music, especially the instrumentals in this film, they're just absolutely glorious to listen to. And I'm hoping keep your fingers crossed. I'm hoping that Terrence Blanchard gets nominated for the Woman King come Oscar time. But that's my movie review overall. And feel free to share comments below in the comment section. So take care, everybody, and I will see you next time with another movie review. Have fun at the movies.